Hey everyone, and welcome to an interview with our Chief Product Officer, Anton Antic. Now, on today's interview, we're going to be going over our new EverWorker platform V2 launch that just came out and hearing all about how it was built, why it was built, and who is it for from Anton himself. So Anton, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, I've heard a lot of what we're more or less staying behind this new V2 is we're calling it the most significant platform transformation in EverWorker's history to date. So Anton, we've been saying that with V2, your AI workforce is just a conversation away, and it's as easy as just having a normal conversation. What does that actually mean though?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Austin. Thank you for having me. And this is a great question. And as all of you know, things are happening so fast in our industry in AI that we literally have to change and come up with new ideas every day just to be able to follow what is happening. And that's what we try to do. That's what we try to do with our product. And our end goal was always, our inspiration was always to let anybody without any technical skills to be able to create the AI that will work for them and that will be your ally, will be your friend, if you want to say. I mean, not necessarily in the emotional sense, but in the sense that it will be on your side. So it's not an AI that will want to make money on you while providing some services, but will actually be aligned with you, fully controlled by you, and is able to do useful and beneficial things for you. That was kind of the foundation on which we built everything. And that's what we tried to bring in this next release, where we have added different types of workers. So previously we were focused more on AI-enabled workflows. Now we are adding more classical, if you can call something that's 3 years old, classical capabilities in terms of being able to create also what we call now universal workers. So basically, it's the AI assistants that have a bunch of different skills made available to them, or the AI assistants that can manage other AI assistants. And we think that this key new addition, the ability to create powerful AI teams consisting of these universal workers that are able to solve a wide variety of tasks, together with specialized workers that have been fine-tuned to solve a specific business process or a task. And that's where the next wave is. That's where the next benefits from using AI in business especially are coming from. This is our belief, and this is what we try to deliver in this product. And of course, if you talk about ease of use, that was our number one priority. And initially we thought to make it more visual and easier to put together, but eventually we realized that we need to make it completely AI first. So now everything you see in the product is AI enabled, AI assisted, and you can build those workers that will work for you and will work for your company without even, doing anything with your hands. You can just talk to our AI builders and they will do work for you. But of course, since we want to still keep full control, you have the full visibility. You can go inside, you can see what prompts are created, what code is created, what features are added, and this way you can be sure that it's not just efficient, but also secure and you're in control.
And that really sounds like, and of course now that our team is has been seeing it too. This wasn't just kind of like a normal UI refresh. Like you literally rebuilt the entire platform, basically, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Let's just go ahead and kind of jump into the vision for the most part. So you and the rest of our team has kind of been talking about an AI workforce that basically has its own organizational chart, like most people are used to seeing at their at their place of work, their org charts. Can you kind of paint that picture of how the AI workforce plus your human workforce, how that kind of merges together?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I think what's happening in AI right now is that the first industry that's being transformed is obviously programming or development or software engineering itself, because there are lots of great products, lots of solutions that help people become much more productive. And frankly, we took quite a bit of inspiration from that area. But what we try to do, we try to take the learnings we get from working with coding agents that exist on the market and that make people 10x more productive or even more, and try to bring them to business. And there are certain patterns that are clearly emerging. First of all, of course, there are certain jobs or certain business processes that AI can completely replace. But having said that, normally this is the jobs or business processes humans wouldn't really want to do anyway, because they're boring, they might be mundane. So what we are doing and our inspiration, again, what we are doing with our teams of workers is that we want to free up people, humans, for creative work. Because what we realized while working throughout this couple of years is that, yes, you can trust these specialist workers as they are very well fine-tuned to very well-defined business process, and they will do the job well. But if you want to solve complex tasks, if you want to be creative, if you want to be really competitive, that's where human creativity is needed. And the AI workers can be a very good partner for you, to design creative stuff, to design the strategy, to critique it, to revise it, to get some new ideas. But in the end, it's a human who stands as the main, orchestrator of everything that's happening. And you work as a partner with these universal workers, and then you have the team of these specialized workers that fulfill a certain function. And that's where this idea of an org chart comes in. So if you think, like, for instance, if you want to start a company, and I think it's a pretty popular also concept in the industry right now, like a one-person company. So if you start the company, you still need the development, you need the HR, you need operations, you need finance, you need accounting, etc., etc. So if you imagine such a work chart, you can start thinking, okay, where do I need humans in these key positions, and where I can put these AI workers that's on these positions to make humans that work with me or for me more productive. And then, if you start a small company, it can be just you with the team of workers doing different tasks. As you grow, it will be more humans that become much, much more productive, each with their own team of these workers, helping them do their functions. And this is the way where we get this 10x multiplication on our productivity and on the creative things we can do.
Yeah, that really seems to be kind of one of the main pieces that we're really trying to get across is the idea of augmentation for your
Right.
existing teams. When it's all like, I mean, we've all been in jobs before where, we're severely understaffed. We're being asked to do more, but with less resources. So now basically what you're saying is you can have, that lean team for a startup or, any organization, but then augmented with instead of just having your human, in my case, marketing team, you also have a whole organizational team of AI marketers to work alongside of you, basically. Is that kind of like the concept?
Yeah, totally. That's the idea. And it's actually interesting because, again, it's very early in these days, and we are all just starting. And as I mentioned, we use AI workers extensively in building the product. It's both the tools that are existing and also our custom built agents as well, because we have certain peculiarities and we see certain issues that are not really solved by generic tools. But what you find really quickly is that you become a bottleneck. And you, I mean me as a human. So I could do more stuff, but still there is certain oversight required, certain thought is required on my part to formulate the task correctly so that this team of workers is becoming more efficient. And I mean, that's kind of the beauty of it. Yes, I am becoming 10x more productive, but at the same time, they're not going to replace humans completely, as sometimes the worry is. So there is always a place for somebody who's creative, who can make decisions, who can think strategically and see the full picture. And that's not the AI workers, but you definitely become. And I mean, it's also just fun. It's like because previously I used to code myself. I guess I'm the co-founder and the product manager, and I'm focusing on the technical stuff. and I was doing it, of course, quite some time in my career. And also, as we started building the company, I was doing it myself. But now I find it that I don't want to code anymore. But the fun part of creating a product is not coding. It's coming up with architectures. It's thinking through, how this thing works together with that thing. And it's the same in business. I mean, you don't want to be writing, the same emails 23 times per day or per hour or whatever it is. You want to think about creative stuff, like what is the market? What is the problem I'm trying to solve? How can I get to these people creatively? How can I help them? And then executing some of the, more technical or boring things, that's where you get your AI worker team. And I think it's a beautiful combination.
Well, let's dive in a little bit deeper into some of the new updates. So let's talk about what you and the rest of our team are pretty much calling the most exciting innovation, like of part of this EverWorker V2, is the EverWorker Creator, that is kind of being positioned as like your always-on AI engineering team for you, kind of for anyone to be able to use more or less just through natural human language. Can you tell us a little bit more about
Right.
EverWorker Creator?
Yeah, that's basically exactly that. And again, we took inspiration from the different development AI workers that are around and that we have created ourselves. The main challenge was that, yes, now if you are very well educated technically, if you know what programming is, you can take the existing coding agents and code different systems, different software, and it can be pretty good if you provide oversight. I mean, you have to be still careful. Like if you are completely just a wipe coder and you don't understand how systems are built, you'll get in trouble eventually. But if you do, you become more productive and you can do great stuff. The challenge in doing what we are doing, which is building the workers themselves, is that how do we do it so that it's accessible for non-technical people? Because if you just generate code, it's an issue. They need to understand code. Otherwise, they won't be able to judge, like, is it good? Is it not good? Does it do what they need to do, etc. So that's where sort of part of the know-how of the platform comes, is that we limit certain building blocks from which we can build our workers, and they are described by natural language. They're understandable to business people. And then our worker creator just takes those business building blocks and combines them together. So it's not writing code. Writing code is, you can do anything, but it requires much more understanding from you. Here you have a more limited foundation of this limited number of building blocks. But this way, what you build, while still very powerful, it's predictable, it's controllable, and you don't need to be, PhD in computer science to do that. So that was kind of what we came up with. So still, the way the process works, it just you type into the worker, or you talk into the worker what you want to build. It iterates with you. It asks some additional questions. It tells you what it has, what it misses, and you need to go talk to your administrators to connect a new system, for instance, etc., etc. And then it just, in this iterative way, you get your worker built for you in a matter of minutes.
With that, so the concept of an AI worker is then creating, or a team of AI workers is creating the AI worker for you just based off your natural language. Can you kind of give us a little bit of behind the scenes, like what's actually happening behind the scenes architecturally?
Yeah, architecturally, again, what we have is a distinction for two different worker types in our new product: universal workers and specialized workers. Specialized workers are fine-tuned. It's basically a workflow doing different things in different steps, where there is a certain LLM, large language model, is in the context, and it can do some decision making, some data transformation. But basically, specialized workers are very good at doing repeatable tasks. Something that you do, every day, and you would rather not be doing, you can build a specialized worker to help you. This is kind of where they shine. But to build them, we are using these universal workers who are much more flexible. Basically, universal worker is still an LLM, and this is an LLM of the latest generation because we have been following the area, of course, very closely, and the previous generations of LLMs were not good at it at all. Now they are sort of getting to that stage. So it's an LLM with very advanced instructions provided, how to behave, how to interact with the user. And also they're given a set of what we call skills or tools, which is, well, basically instruments the LLM can use to do something. And basically it can be an API call, it can be do something in the system, it can be edit certain text, it can be, go read this website or this document, etc., etc. And this is what's under the hood of these builders. They understand our architecture, they understand every building block that we have to build those specialized workers. They have certain tools that allow them to add a building block, to delete a building block, to edit a building block, to connect these building blocks together. And then they just having a dialogue with you, trying to understand what you want to achieve. As soon as they understand it, they're pretty good at creating a plan and, step by step, creating what you need and then making corrections using those tools and skills that we have provided to them.
So let's just think of the legacy way of work, that even when it's been AI augmented, just like through ChatGPT and a normal chat assistant. What would you say that like this EverWorker Creator eliminates the need to have, complex knowledge around, basically? Like how many different things is this more or less eliminating in and of itself?
Yeah, it's actually you can compare directly with the previous version of our platform, where to build a worker, you had to add those nodes manually. Then you had to analyze the input format, so what kind of data comes in, and then output format, so what kinds of data comes out. And it can be pretty complex structures. Then you had to find the piece of data that you need. You had to connect it manually to the next node, etc., etc. So it's a pretty tedious process. It's still much faster than programming by hand, but it's still tedious. So with this worker builder, we completely eliminate that. Basically, it allows you to step up, to step back. You kind of zoom out of the picture. It's a very interesting thing because it's happening across the board in programming, and now we're trying to do things for business, or we implemented in this a worker builder. It's like if you want to build, I don't know, a house, right? First, you need to create an architectural design, or even think like what kind of house does it have to be. Then you create architectural design. Then you have to be very diligent creating engineering design so that it doesn't fall into rubbles, and think about communications and where to put what. But then you have to actually build it. You have to take a shovel and do a hole in the ground to put the basement, and then build the house. And it's a lot of very, very little things that you have to do. So what we are doing now, at least in the virtual world, it was kind of the same as you're building software, or as you're building, for instance, agents. You have to think about what you want it to do. Then you have to define the architecture. Then you have to think, okay, I need this piece here, this piece there. Then you have to go and implement every piece. It's very, very, very little detail. So you go from all the way high down to the littlest details. Now what we allow people to do is to keep the details out. Like, we don't care about details. We take fun in creating things. Like, let's do architecture, let's do vision, let's do dreaming. And then little tiny details, we have AI workers doing them for us. And this is an amazing thing.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good example of thinking about building a house. Yeah, you're completely right. It makes me think about, with a house, you have a project manager, and the project manager oversees someone that does, the actual carpentry, and then the plumbing, so there's a different aspect. So it's almost like with the EverWorker Creator and just the whole platform in general, it kind of can seemingly replace the traditional ways of having to build AI agents by hand. You have to know, API integrations. You have to know how to code. You have to know, agent architecture and all that. It does all of it
and
for you.
That's a great example, which we use internally a lot, as you know, the API integration, right? So you can talk to a human, and I mean, sometimes in many companies, programmers still want to program. We do believe you don't need to program. You can build it using tools like ours, but you can talk to a programmer and tell them, okay, I want to build this and that. They are doing that based on their knowledge. But the example I mentioned is that Microsoft alone has 20,000 API calls. 20,000. No human being can possibly know 20,000. They maybe know, I don't know, 20, maybe 50. Then they can search for stuff. But LLM knows all of them. They've been trained on this data. So they're just much better in knowing what can be implemented, and they can do it much faster than any human being. That's another thing which is, here we don't have anything to compare with. It's just a very clear benefit of working with a worker like ours to develop something for you than with a human being, just because our knowledge is much more limited. But our strength is not in knowing a huge number of facts. It's inability to connect them and design things well. So I think that's a perfect sort of marriage or partnership, and that's what we're trying to pursue.
Previously, you were talking a little bit about the two main distinctions that we're having right now between universal workers, which we kind of talked about being a team lead, and then we have a specialized worker that's kind of doing more deterministic tasks for you, then they can connect to each other. Can you actually dive a little bit deeper now into both of those and really explain to us the difference between the two and where the benefits come, maybe some ideas for use cases around them?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, as we mentioned several times already, specialized workers are good for repeatable processes that are quite well defined. So basically, if you have a very well written job description or a script, for instance, for a call center, or just very well written out instructions, this is where specialized workers are the best, because they save tokens. Tokens is basically the amount of information the LLM needs to process to do something for you. They're fine-tuned, they're predictable, and you can be sure that they will be doing their job the same way tomorrow as they're doing yesterday. This is the specialized. The universal worker, they're able to solve a wider number of problems by using the skills we have given them. So they do some reasoning similar to people. They create certain plan. Okay, how do we execute what a user asks us to do? Here's the plan. Here are the tools or skills we need to use to execute each point of this plan. Then they start executing. But this process of reasoning, of planning, of using the tool, then making corrections, it takes longer, and it is more expensive in terms of the number of tokens used. But since not every problem is predictable and easily solvable, they obviously have their space in those non-deterministic cases where we work together with them. So specialized workers for predictable, repeatable processes, universal workers, they're your partners in solving more complex stuff. But actually also one of the patterns that we find is that, okay, you can work on a problem with a universal worker. You can talk through, you can exchange ideas, you can come up with a good plan. Then the universal worker will actually execute it for you using the tools they have. And then you can turn it into a specialized worker. So if you want to, make it repeatable, why not? Like if it's a pretty repeatable use case. So this is also something that is completely possible, and we are doing it with the builders on our platform.
So are we kind of thinking about it in this way, where maybe if some people have been somewhat into the AI space, and especially the AI agent space, you've heard probably the terms vertical AI worker and a horizontal AI worker, with the vertical being like, just off the shelf, this is a sales worker and it only does this, or, horizontal being that it can do a wide range of things. So are we
Right.
more or less saying that we are creating both? We have both, and now they even work together, and they can even keep building off of each other through the power of the universal worker.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the way. I mean, it's also, of course, we are, creating a new category basically, and there is a lot of new things are happening. But maybe, and this was our original way of thinking about things. It's not even, universal worker and specialized worker. Probably the best to think about it is it's like a real, well, human or cyborg or robot, whatever you want to call it, which is the universal worker. And then the specialized workers are skills, because they're exactly that. If I know how to run a marketing campaign in HubSpot, that's my skill. And this is exactly what you can build a specialist worker for. They go, they do some planning, they press specific buttons or call specific APIs, and then the campaign starts. The emails go out to your customers. That's a skill. But to use a skill, you need some sort of brain to process it, to decide when to use it, like why to use it, how to use it, and that's where universal workers come in. But exactly, we sort of work across both, and whatever you call it, universal workers and specialist workers, or universal workers and the skills that are specialized workers. By creating the teams of these guys, you can create teams that are able to solve vertical problems, but at the same time, they can do it very well and for any vertical. So that's kind of the beauty of the platform.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's very exciting to a lot of people. You and I have actually done interviews in the past talking about, at the time, our universal connector, when you more or less were disrupting the whole idea of when everyone was going crazy about MCP. We were talking about you created a whole new way of connecting to any API through your architecture. So can you talk to us a little bit about how the universal connector has evolved since what that was like 2 months ago since you and I talked on that? How has that evolved, and how is it actually integrated into the platform now?
Right. Yeah, so Universal Connector didn't go anywhere. It's a foundation of our platform. And basically, what it allows us to do, it allows us to connect to any system in the world if it has an API. And yeah, the comparison with MCP is just the MCP is a great technology, but it puts the burden on API providers or on tool providers to actually support it, to create a certain interface, to be discoverable, etc., etc. However, LLMs, frankly speaking, they don't care. If you have a REST API and you have some documentation for it, they will understand it as well. So we kind of took a shortcut, and now, yes, we can connect to any system that has an API. Nothing has changed. The evolution is that we wanted to make it even easier for people to use. So what we did, we created a huge library of those APIs internally in our central repository. And now whenever anybody deploys EverWorker in their own infrastructure, they can just download the ones they need, the ones they use, for instance, in their own infrastructure, and then it becomes available to all the workers they want to build on their platform. So it just makes it even easier to use. You don't need to discover anything, it's just there. And workers know what they want to use or what they need to use, and they will be able to solve the issue. But, this is actually also taken a little bit of a detour. It's a philosophical debate in the industry because the AI industry itself is trying to push technologies for which people are really not ready yet. And sometimes they're even trying to push the technologies that don't really work. Like, for instance, the idea behind MCP is that you put an LLM and you say, okay, this LLM can do anything. But the practice shows that no, when you say it can do anything, it cannot do anything, or it can do everything but very badly. You still need to specialize them a little bit. You need to tell them, no, you're a worker that helps me with sales using HubSpot or using Salesforce. Then they are very efficient. They are focused, they're targeted, they know the list of tools or skills they can use is limited, and that's where they produce good results. If you tell them you can solve any problem in the world, go discover which tools are available, which is MCP is kind of about, you get mediocre results. So we believe in this specialization and in working of these workers as teams together.
So Anton, thank you so much for all of this, exciting information about EverWorker V2. Now that it is launched, we're really excited to see how our customers and how even our internal teams can 10x our own productivity even more from our V1 product. So this is going to be a very exciting time. And for anyone that is interested in actually trying out this product, head over to our everworker.ai website where you can book your own personalized demo with our team to see how we can kind of integrate this into your own workforce to augment it with an AI workforce. So Anton, thank you again for your time today. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you many more times as even more products come out with the EverWorker V2.
Thank you, Austin.